Hail them.
Hailing frequencies open, sir.
Hailing frequencies. Open.
I don't know why I keep giving alien street food a chance. It's always such a gamble.
Captain, we're being hailed.
On screen.
Hello, and welcome to another Hailing Frequencies Open podcast, where we continue to trek through the past and future of Star Trek. As always, I'm your host, Mike Jones, and joining me today in the studio, he's doing all the work on bringing us these great guests like today's. It's Damien.
I'm Mike Jones. I'm super excited about our guest because I definitely watch his YouTube channel. So I've got lots of questions.
See, when I write the intro, it's nice. And speaking of, someone wasn't here to write Damien's intro, but she just showed the fuck up. It's Lanita.
Yep, sure did. Said checking out, party of one, checking in to the pod. Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Jones.
Yeah, she made a big deal about being like, I have to cancel. I can't do Tuesday night. They're making me stay late at work, blah, 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 blah. We tried.
And guess what I did?
Yeah.
I printed one last thing and said, I'm going to go. There are enough people here helping. I want to go home.
You got your priorities straight is what you did.
Absolutely.
All right, let's delay no longer in getting to our guest today. He is a Trek YouTuber, the man behind Orange River Productions, and he seems to be obsessed with a certain animated Orion. Welcome to the pod. It's Tyler.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. We've been enjoying your YouTube channel. Here's the thing. So I watched several today. Like I had it in my ear while I was at work, and I'm very susceptible to advertisements, and I have never smoked or anything a day in my life, but now I really want to try this scented air vape thing.
Yeah, about that. Well, we YouTubers, have different thresholds of sponsorships that we take, and I do want to make it known to anybody listening that some of the companies that I work with, it's because I need to pay my editors, not necessarily because I just really believe in the mission statement of of what it is. So.
But one day you'll be able to pick and choose the products.
Well, you're doing an excellent sell, because I found myself in the same moment, being like, God,
interesting.
I could vape. I could vape.
Do that. It's like a fidgety toy in my hand, and like they have a orange flavored one. I could do that.
No, it'll tear your lungs to pieces. Don't do it.
But it's just air. Anyway, whatever. So that's where my brain is today, from the like I brainwashed myself today by watching your videos in my ears over and over.
Brainwash himself into a vapor. I love it.
Right.
I'm sure they'll be glad.
Sure. Well, let's start by getting to know you a little bit. First of all, your company is Orange River Productions. So your YouTube channel is Orange River. What is that name? Where did that come from?
Yeah, it's one of the most frequent questions that I get when I do like Q&A streams. So the long and short of it is my family has always been big fans of University of Tennessee football and basketball, and their
Go
colors
Vols.
are orange and white. Hell yeah. And since I live in Memphis, next to not next to the river, but the river is next to Memphis. I just combined those, and that's the name that I've been using in commerce, so to speak, for a very long time. My channel actually used to be called Animator Kid, believe it or not. And I had a little red bird as my profile picture, and is like early 2021 I changed it to Orange River because that sounded a little bit more official as I was starting to blow up with Trek essays, but that is the origin of the name.
That's awesome. I'm from Tennessee too. I'm from Maryville, which is near Knoxville, and went to the University of Tennessee. So, go Vols. That's awesome.
Excellent.
So should you
But
not have been able to put that together yourself with your
no,
Tennessee
I did
heritage,
not
Mike
put it
Jones?
together. Here's the thing. Now that I live in Florida, orange takes on a whole new meaning
Ooh, yeah.
because
Oh,
the
Oh.
yeah.
citrus industry, the Tropicana bottling place is not far from us, and sometimes we walk outside and just smell this like chemically orange smell. So
Mm.
yeah, I've orange means something else to me now. But anyway, um, well, that's great. So, why Star Trek essays? Like, was that just something you were kind of obsessed with the thoughts in your head and you had to get them out into some place, or what?
Right. Well, it's kind of random that ended up being like my lane on YouTube, just because that's what the algorithm decided. But
Yeah.
it is like I would say around the mid 2010s, I was making video essays about all kinds of different franchises, which I still do, but Star Trek was one of them. Talking about like the politics of the Federation, talking about
Mm.
alternate history. Alternate history has always been a really big interest area of mine. And in 2020, I did my con video, just one random entry in the series, and all of a sudden that started blowing up. And then followed it up later with a video about the Lost Era, and then I did Borg, and so it just kind of snowballed into some of my big series like Alien Biology, Future Tech, and then the retrospectives came in 2022, and I'm still
Mm.
doing those.
Yeah, the Trekkies found you.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, because you're getting videos like that are up to like 1 million views. Is that what is your actually I should ask you, because I did not really like search thoroughly. What's your record view count?
Well, my most popular, have 3 videos that are up at 1 million views: Species 8472, Q, and Star Trek's Ancient Civilizations. I have, looking now, 16 million total views, but there's a lot of other
Wild.
YouTubers that are
Wild.
way above that, so I'm
Yeah,
still a
no,
small channel.
At what point do you get that little silver plaque with the symbol that I see in the background?
Yeah, that's 100,000 subscribers, so I'm very, very close.
Yes.
Painfully close, in fact, I would
Oh, well,
say.
let me go subscribe now to help you push it
She leaves the
closer
room
to
to go
you.
subscribe to Orange River.
I don't have to leave the room. I just pick up my phone.
No,
The
from the comfort
multi-device.
of your own home.
Yeah.
Right. Well, surely, hopefully, we can help you with that a little bit. With our tens of listeners will head over and subscribe.
It all adds up.
Absolutely. Damien, did you?
Yeah,
Sorry.
so the video that I've
Just
sort of
nodding.
latched onto, that I have rewatched a couple of times. You did this video on items in Star Trek canon that their canon worthiness was worthy of revisiting.
The title was "Erased from Canon."
Erased from canon.
Oh yeah.
Which like struck me as this kind of like larger conversation about sort of our relationship with canon as Trekkies, as and sort of the big one that gets me is that there is all this Trek canon that talks about the 20th into the early 21st century, where we currently are,
Mhm.
with things that have obviously not happened
Yes.
yet.
Yes.
And it raises this like really interesting question in the writers of new Trek, and how we look back at old Trek, is like, how do we reconcile that? So I guess the one that I really wanted to start with is about the birth of Khan, is about all of these sort of 21st century things that should have happened already that have not. And I kind of, I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that. And also, I mean, my real question also is like, if things happened in the 1990s, according to original Trek, does Star Trek happen in an alternate timeline that is not the one that we're living in?
All right. So, I've tackled that question very thoroughly, or attempted to, for years, and I've struggled with it, and it keeps me up at night, to be honest. Uh,
Oh,
but
good. We stumbled on a good one.
so the canon video itself was born out of kind of like trying to catch the wave of people coming off of Lower Decks season 5. But I made a video in 2023 about the new, like, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, the Strange New World episode.
Yeah.
And basically my assessment is that I do think that there is some kind of demarcation line between original series continuity and current Prime Universe continuity, just because in Wrath of Khan he says 1996, in Space Sea they say 1996, and then now they're saying 2022, the 21st century. So somewhere is the line. I think that
They're gaslighting us.
they kind of are. So I think TNG, introduced a new date for World War III in the 21st century. So that could have been and TNG was kind of a soft reboot of Star Trek anyway, because Gene Roddenberry had a lot of new ideas about the universe that he was trying to integrate. And then there's the temporal Cold War in Enterprise, which I think has add a lot of complications. So I think that I think the writers kind of screwed up, actually. They should have picked either just let Star Trek exist in an alternate universe, an alternate timeline, which I've never had a problem with, and it has been up until this point, or then all bets are off, roving continuity, etc. They're trying to do this weird have it both ways, have your cake and eat it too situation, where they're trying to honor the spirit of Star Trek being like an optimistic, plausible future for humanity, but also still inserting these events from canon that it's like, well, we didn't have a manned Europa mission last year, so like,
right.
does that count? Like, what timeline was that in? I think that they're causing unintentional confusion, to be perfectly honest with you.
And what I mean, I guess my question is, what is the answer? How do you I mean, do you just kind of ignore it and move forward and not try to answer those questions, or do you? What's the answer?
Yeah, well, my friend of the channel, Rowan, has made a video about, like, does canon matter? And I guess the answer that people should subscribe to, I think, is that what's more important is like the messaging of the episodes and the characters and everything and all that stuff, as opposed to like specific dates. But I think by definition, Star Trek has to take place in an alternate timeline because it contains historical events, that are just fictional, in the same way that all fiction, is an alternate timeline because it's not reality. But spiritually, being in like an optimistic future to aspire to, I think is definitely an okay, like, theme and message to continue to embrace.
Well, and it's funny because, Mike, I think you actually recently on a previous episode made a reference to a Will Wheaton quote about how you grew up feeling that the future of Next Generation, I don't want to say it for you, was inevitable somehow.
Right. Well, I think that was the strength that Star Trek had that drew me to it as a child. I mean, in the early '80s, all of the future sci-fi, properties were apocalyptic, Mad Max, and it was an optimistic view of the future. So the thought that it's our future, that we are inevitably going to evolve into that, was, I think, what really appealed to me. But the older I get, the more I realize that that's not going to happen unless we really try for it to happen. It's not inevitable. In fact, the cynical side of me is like, that's never going to happen. Of course, we also have World War III to happen before if this is our real future. So, you know what I mean? But I wanted to look at a little bit of what messes with my head or did when Enterprise came out originally back in the day. Because it's a prequel, but some of the technology seems more advanced than the TOS era. And it's a different era of television production,
Mhm.
It's a different design aesthetic. I mean, I think Roddenberry said that the purpose of television is to sell toothpaste, right? So like the original series was beautifully colorful because they were selling color TVs.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, that's why the uniforms are not the only reason, but the uniforms are these bright colors, and like the bridge is black with these bright color, lights and little doodads. And then you get into uh, what's supposed to be earlier than that, and you have these flat screen TVs, and what it just looks a lot more advanced.
Mhm.
Uh, and so that I got over that. But then Discovery, I think, took it to a whole new level with holographic comms, and just some
Mhm.
of the things just don't. You can't watch this and say that this leads to this, or that 10 years after this the ship is going to look like this. You know what I mean? And then Strange New Worlds is the same thing. I mean, they've really just uh, redesigned, rewritten the way the Enterprise looks. And I love it. Don't get me wrong, but how do you how do you take canon and wrap it around those kinds of production changes?
Right. Well, and people, that's another frequent sentiment that is in my comments all the time. For me, what I think is super important to keep in mind is that television is a medium, and
Mm,
so we are seeing these events that are happening in the Star Trek universe through the lens of television, and so in that way, like, you know the original series being made in the 60s on a shoestring network budget, it was going to look a certain way, and
Mm-hmm.
the remaster that they did 20 years ago, I think honors it enough. But in the 21st century, I think that it is I think it would have been a mistake to try to make the like the Enterprise sets and the Strange New Worlds and Discovery sets look less advanced than the original series,
mm,
because if these are events that are happening hundreds of years in the future, well,
yeah.
we have touch screens, we have flat screens, we
Mm,
have, we don't have holograms, and but
Oh, we
I
have holograms.
we
Hello, there are
yeah,
full tours of them.
that's true, yeah,
yeah.
not
Yeah.
very limited
Yes,
Right.
very
To the
limited.
ABBA concert, right?
Right.
Yeah. But so something like Strange New Worlds, I think, strikes a good balance of making it look enough like the Enterprise, where you can buy that the people, the events are happening. And I say the same thing about Lower Decks. Lower Decks is a canon show, and the fact that we are seeing it, these events happening through the lens of an animated comedy, it's exaggerated, it's heightened a little bit,
Mhm.
but they are just like we saw in the crossover episode. I mean, these are people that exist in the universe, but you know, animation, television, these are media, whichever
Right.
one you would use, and it's kind of theatrical. It's like you can get different actors; they don't have to look
Mm.
exactly the same as.
Mhm.
It's why I think. I don't like that Hollywood is using deep fakes and CGI to
Yeah.
recreate like Grand Moff Tarkin and Luke Skywalker. I think it's kind of gross, actually. So honoring that theatric medium is what that's what television is.
So
So
it's not like the historical documents in Galaxy Quest.
Right.
those are the here. You know what? I have a random question because you all are very like deep cut in the mix, like in your vein, Star Trek. Who does
By the way,
like?
she is also, she just does it
Right.
without proper nouns.
Okay, fair
That's
enough.
fine.
When it comes to quote unquote like canon, we talk about this word like here, this is canon, this isn't canon, this is prime, blah, blah. Like people look at Star Trek and say TOS, period, point blank.
Mhm.
Anything that was put down in this first Old Testament is what it is. And everything else is quote unquote New Testament. And if you don't like reckon, or if you don't not pay homage, but if you don't uh ascribe to like something that was laid down in TOS, then you have strayed from quote unquote canon, right? Like
Right.
red shirts, we all know you stepped off the ship for an away mission, you're not coming back. But now, like, you've changed the color of the uniform, so you strayed from like, it's one of those things where it's like you got to let things grow. I understand that, it is, things happen, but how who like has the ultimate book, I guess, on like, do you all agree what is canon versus what is not canon, or is it depends on the day and when you came into it?
Well,
If
there are
that
those that
makes
say that
any
Paramount
sense.
is the authority on this.
Yeah.
If we trust them.
Right.
And
Okay.
as somebody whose channel is dedicated to trying to like kind of catalog these lore contributions and everything, I essentially, I don't have to, but do feel an obligation to use the studio's definition, because it is the main consistent definition that is provided, right? And it makes me feel awkward, like that it opens me up to like being called a CBS shill and everything. But I mean that they are the ones that have
I'm like giving a
provided
hard
the
eye roll at those people, by the way.
yeah,
Right.
of course,
Sorry.
but they are the ones that have provided the consistent definition, and it's pretty simple. All of the shows and films, I think that is nice and easy and clean.
Mm.
Right. Even though they contradict each other.
Is there any way to like how you talked about the fact that like TOSs will say like, I'm gonna use letters because I don't the
Yeah.
numbers of the centuries, blah 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 blah. Like TOS, it seems like right now is like D. And then we had Enterprise, which is B, and in between there is Discovery, C. So you have to like figure out how to pull what D is back through time, but also, as you're saying, Tyler, put it through the lens of where we are now.
Mhm.
So then, doesn't technically the things that are happening in Discovery and happening in Enterprise, and then where is New Strange New Worlds in this? Is that technically A? Where like do those
I've
things
already
now
forgot
become
your
canon?
letters.
I did. It was a flawed, such a flawed attempt
Understand your
from the
lettering.
start.
I'm following your logic though.
Thank,
Yeah.
thank you. You know what I mean? Like, do then those things now become canon because they have happened pre TOS?
I think that anything that is new, and there are people who would crucify me for this and hate me, but like anything that is new, I think is current canon. That's what I would say. So I love the original series. I just watched it recently for my retrospective video. I think that it's one of my top series, but there are things about it that have been just objectively overwritten, and I think that in a franchise that is has been going on for 60 years, that's going to happen. So to your point, I would say current equals like the most up to date version of like what is the universe supposed to be.
Mm.
Now that is in the eyes of the studio, but I think in terms of like somebody like me who's writing down like what are these events happening, like yeah, Khan is now a 21st century individual. That is something I have to work with and move forward with. you know
Do you have this written down somewhere, Tyler? Like, do you have a full like room
oh,
of like,
I've got
I'm looking for the crime scene photos with strings of this happened here and
I've got terabytes of stuff on hard drives, like it-
I love that.
videos and images. I do use the wikis a lot. I occasionally I will um debase myself and go to Reddit just to see what people are
it's not
saying.
debasing. Listen, Reddit apparently is it is a trough of things and also some knowledge that one can, glean from it. It's just interesting. I think about you, Mike Jones, and you did the timeline when we were doing,
Oh
what
yeah, Mike
episode
did the
was that?
Prodigy
The
timeline.
Prodigy
I
time.
really had trouble wrapping my head around the
Oh
second season,
man.
so I had to
So there was a
sketch it
time.
out.
Exactly. So I'm thinking to in my head, I'm like, you doing these videos and like doing all these retcons and retrospectives, like you've got some room where it's just a huge whiteboard and you're like, this is the line, and then all the little break offs of like,
Yeah.
here this is, and this happened here, and
Yeah.
okay, switch it back
Like a
over.
Doc Brown chart.
Right.
Hmm.
Well, there's enough time travel in Star Trek that you can use it to justify a
Mhm.
lot of things. I mean, the wibbly wobbly of it all.
Well, right. And how many times is there a time travel episode where they are play fast and loose with the temporal prime directive, and then they
Right.
come back to their own time, and they're like, they look around, they're like, everything's good. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
haven't changed anything.
Where
And
did
you're
that
like,
most recent that
have
most
you
recently
surveyed the
happened
whole
somewhere?
universe? Like what?
Right? Everything's good except that Khan happened in the 21st century now.
Wait, didn't that just happen in the last movie I just watched?
Star Trek 4.
Where yeah, where they took
Yeah.
yeah,
Who
they took
invented
Transparent
transparent
aluminum.
aluminum? Maybe that guy did.
maybe
We don't
that
know.
guy did. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they plucked that woman from that whole just her whole timeline gone in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Now in the
Butterfly
future.
effect.
She was not meant to procreate, apparently.
Shame on kids.
Or
We knew
it's a
that.
temporal paradox. It was meant to happen that way. It's predetermined.
This is what I mean.
There's one detail
Janeway.
that I always fixate on in one of my favorite. I think probably my favorite TOS episode is Balance of Terror,
Mhm.
and
Good
that
episode.
moment where we first see a Romulan on the view screen, and everyone is shocked that they look like Vulcans, and the sort of more that we learn about like the origins of the Vulcans and the Romulans and the that my question is, has that moment ever been truly contradicted in canon, and is that still plausible looking back at that episode that nobody, including Spock, knows that?
Well,
Mm.
I am not aware of any, necessary retcons to Balance of Terror, because that is first visual contact with the Federation, and every Enterprise and Strange New Worlds have gone to great lengths to try to make sure that whenever there are Romulans featured, that there is no visual contact.
Their cameras are off
Mm.
for some reason.
Yeah, they're secretive,
Right.
So not to my knowledge. I do know that in the 2009 movie, when Nero arrives, that there's I have to rewatch that scene to see what the dialogue is, to see is this an alien species that they are supposed to be recognizing or not?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So, but I mean, Kelvin timeline, I think is different in both directions before and after he arrives, because it would have a different
Yes.
set of time paradoxes governing its history. But yeah, so far they've respected canon, and in fact, Strange New Worlds has also. What they've been doing with the Gorn, I understand, people's mixed feelings on that. But the writers of these shows, like the choices that they're making are deliberate in what aliens they show and what time periods they're in. Is it stretching, canon a little bit perhaps, but nevertheless, they have advisors,
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
And the one that always gets me this is the sort of people have a range of opinions about Discovery, and they're entitled to all of those, and there are people who love it and people who don't, and for all mostly for a lot of valid reasons. But the thing that gets me, right, in Star Trek 5 we see that Spock has a half brother, right, and there's a little bit of like, what, like, where did that come from? How do we, right? And then that he has this quote unquote sister causes this like outrage, like that it is this like canon breaking thing that a character that we know and love has an aspect to his biography that we never knew about. Or how did that play for you when that happened?
Yeah, well, when I watched Discovery season 1, I was in not really the best headspace because I watched it in 2020 and there was just everything going on in 2020, so I didn't really
Understood.
absorb everything the best I could. But having rewatched it recently, I do feel like Michael Burnham is kind of shoehorned in, but it is correct to point out that Spock is a very private person, and we didn't know about Cybok, so it isn't canon breaking. um I do think that Discovery does have a lot of various narrative issues.
Sure.
But that breaking canon is something that has a high threshold for me. And it doesn't particularly, in my opinion.
Do you have canon breaks that you observed that that have gone both ways for you, like examples of things where you're like, oh, it's like I'm not going to be a stickler about it, and then the opposite end of the spectrum being like they clearly think that we're idiots.
Well, the examples that I listed in my video, a lot of them had like caveats, and it
Sure.
was so. I think really the biggest issue that I have is um, meddling with Khan's backstory. I think it's has caused so many issues with the timeline that I think that it's going to take like more to reconcile it than just having to accept like, oh, this happened because of the temporal war. I think it opened a can of worms, and we have as of yet to see what the full realization is of that. But um, I will say that I pointed this out in videos before, is that the writers of Star Trek have been wanting to kind of do this for decades. So Strange New Worlds is just now the realization of it, because they when they went back in time in Voyager to 1996, there was not a eugenics wars going on, and
Sure.
and that was part of Ronald D. Moore and Brandon Braga and that group of people, their attempt to like just kind of compartmentalize TOS and kind of put it on the under the table, and now they have come back, the creatives have come back and sort of made their statement on it. But I guess to answer the question, that is probably the one where I'm like, it's kind of messy how they've handled it, in my opinion.
Remind me what they messed up, because it's out of my brain.
Sure. So yeah,
Now, mind
and
you, Tyler, listen, I have only seen, I may have be a completionist. I've seen all of the series,
uh
but I have only seen up to movie five. Five, right? I haven't seen six
Oh,
yet.
we literally made her stop watching the movie so that we could like mine it for
Yes,
episodes.
which so five is it. The whales are it for me.
sure. Yeah.
Just pointing that out.
So essentially, just to recap that, in Space Seed and TOS and in the Wrath of Khan, it is very firmly established that Khan Noonien Singh is a 20th century born individual, and because the 90s were the future for them, and so he rose up and became a conqueror of quarter of the Earth's population and whatnot. The best of the tyrants, as Kurt put it. And because the 90s have come and gone, the new writers have essentially taken it upon themselves to have his reign take place in our future, kind of retconning
versus our
his
past.
versus our past, his birth
Okay.
year. So the eugenics wars is now kind of roped in with World War III, those dates. And
Okay.
so in terms of what happened in the 90s, in the current iteration of the Prime universe with genetic engineering and whatnot, I don't know. But that is what has been changed, is his birth year and his rise to power.
Which is so funny because it's like certainly the Khan story has gotten a lot of mileage since
Yes.
Space Seed, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
they cannot leave it alone.
They can't.
Right?
They really
can't.
and also, I mean, I really enjoy and appreciate the character of La'an, but I still don't understand why she's Noonien Singh.
No.
Yeah, cynically,
Well,
it's marketing stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, from a fan perspective, I wish that they had stopped looking backwards and started moving forwards. Discovery should not have been set pre-TOS. Like they should have moved farther in the timeline rather than go back.
Mhm.
But from a production perspective, I understand. When I interact with people who aren't Star Trek fans and they see like I have a Star Trek tattoo, and they're like, "Oh, is that Star Wars?" And I'm like, "No, it's Star Trek." Um, you know, and they're like, "Oh, I liked the new one, the one with," and I'm thinking, maybe Discovery, maybe, and they're like, "The one with Patrick Stewart." And I'm like, "Okay, right, okay, good, that's the new one." So,
How old
so
are
I
these
get
people
it.
you're talking to, Mike
Like,
Jones?
I go to dinner parties with lots of older gay men. I mean, I live in a retirement state.
Yeah.
But this is their version of flirting. Um, but but, um, but the um, from a marketing perspective, everybody knows Kirk and Spock. I mean, I think that's why the
Yes.
Kelvin movies went
Mhm.
there. They didn't,
Oh yeah.
because if you can't do Star Trek without like everybody, it's globally known Kirk, Spock, to the point where Uhura was just called Lieutenant Uhura at one point in the script, and she wasn't a lieutenant yet, but they like did. It's like that's the character, Lieutenant Uhura,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. Anyway, it's frustrating because so many of these problems would be solved if they weren't doing, you know, uh,
Prequels.
prequels, and
Yes.
even with the prequels, if they didn't keep bringing in the familiar characters. I love Strange New Worlds, but this Christine Chapel is not the same Christine Chapel that we already knew. She just isn't. Um,
You don't like the Bob?
no, it's great, but I like this Christine Chapel better than Majel Barrett's Roddenberry's Christine Chapel. But it's like, why did she have to be Christine Chapel? Like, what? I don't know. I don't know.
But
But
this is why I
I
asked the question, because like as a like newer, new-ish, not real new viewer, it's like I don't have that
Baggage.
hard can. No, it's not bag. Listen. Okay, this is gonna Amazon. It's happening. Here's the deal. We're about to be in season 23 of Grey's Anatomy,
Oh my god.
and
It's like
sorry,
how far into the pod do we get before she starts talking about Grey's Anatomy? Okay, here we go.
it's relevant.
I believe you.
There is in my head there is canon. Like there is pre-naming it Seattle. Excuse me. Gray Sloan. It was Seattle, Grace, Mercy West. Like there's all these things that's like, where did you come in? Are you pre 007? Are you post 007? Do you know who the initial five were? Or are you now in this later series, you're just jumping on the bandwagon where Meredith is just a voiceover and she's not the main character? So in my head, there's canon.
This
For
goes
you
deep.
all, oh, it's so deep. For you all, and this is just one show, right? With characters coming in and out.
Sure.
Star Trek is literally multiple, it's a series, but there are multiple iterations of it along 60 years. So I can understand it being like, leave that there. Yes, there it is written. Let's move on to something new. But how do you imagine a future that we don't have that was more imaginative of the future they predicted? Do you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we got the fucking Jetsons. Like, we're supposed to be living in the goddamn sky, and Rose is supposed to be cleaning my house and making me food, and I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be in a flying car, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that ain't happening anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because this relates to a conversation that I have with my my friends all the time about like how plausible or how utopian should X be or whatever. And um I think that it is important, of course, to have Star Trek continue to be optimistic media because we need that. And historically it has inspired people to be scientists and all of that stuff. And
Mhm.
you know uh, and their future is bleak before it gets better.
Mhm.
And but I do there is one thing about modern Trek that I do really like, that is in Discovery and Picard and Lower Decks in particular, is calling out like instances of like Federation corruption or just being more critical of it, because the Federation has always been kind of like a stand-in for the United States, and the
Right.
It's
United
amazing.
States is having kind of a moment right now, you know.
Yeah, I'll
Just a
say.
little one. Just a
moment.
little one.
So,
I feel like we can't talk about this topic without talking about, I think, kind of the big one in your video, which is the end of Lower Decks.
mhm.
You want to talk about that? Remind us what that was.
Sure. So, essentially, in the finale of Lower Decks, for those who may not have seen or don't remember, there's these like space-time rifts or something that is like permeating out into the universe and causing changes, and just like in the motion picture when a Klingon ship encounters V'ger and they get destroyed or whatever, this energy wave, this quantum possibility wave comes over the Klingon ship, and this one Klingon gets transformed into a Discovery style Klingon, and people latched onto that and said, "Oh, so that means Discovery's not canon." I'm like, that was not my reaction at all.
No.
It's an Easter egg is what it is, and Mike McMahon gave a little bit of a kind of, I think, muddying the waters kind of answer when people ask him about that, because he very clearly has issues with Discovery, which I think is valid as well, because I do too. But he did later kind of come out and say like, well, of course that's not what I was implying. I was not implying that it's not canon, but that just goes to show. I mean, what bothered me was seeing a bunch of people on YouTube, the day after the finale aired, putting up their little tabloid videos, the same channels that every 5 months are saying that Kurtzman is about to be fired or whatever. It's like, what do you people not have
No.
more going on in your lives? Because I'm
No.
busy as fuck, like
No.
they
People
don't.
are
Yeah.
not touching
They
grass.
don't.
Like
They are not touching grass.
that is the blessing and the curse of all of this.
That's
that
true.
that the more access, the less willingness to actually diversify thought and go outside and touch grass and be in front of people, because one great scholar once said, not enough people have been punched in their mouth, and it shows on the internet, because you would not you you have not said the things that you are typing to someone in person, because you would never.
Yeah, I that actually does get into a conversation about kind of moderation on YouTube.
Sure.
And historically, when I was younger, I when I was in like college and stuff, I was kind of, I had a much more free speech oriented mindset with how I handle comments on my channel. Just if somebody says something, I'll just let it be there, unless it's like really 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 bad. But like then I got popular and I started getting like dozens and hundreds of comments a day, and it's like, oh no, you have to clean it up, because there are so many people who come in and they'll just start picking fights and spreading misinformation and just being weird, which, I mean, and that's the thing. I have a Discord server, and I have a mod who I kind of had a little bit of a falling out with about how to handle it, because he did build the server, because I didn't have a lot of experience with it. But there was this one person who was coming in and accusing me of various things, and it's like, this person doesn't need to be here. And he was like, well, no, he hasn't violated the written rules. And like, fuck the written rules, man. It's my server. I like, people do not know what it is like to be bombarded day in, day out with opinions that you didn't ask for on this platform. And you have to moderate the comment section, because otherwise it is going to be a garbage fest.
Dumpster fire.
Yeah, dumpster fire.
Now, to what extent do you actually engage with people who disagree strongly with things that you say?
Probably too much, to be honest. uh,
But
I
seriously, because I not to interrupt, but I watch your channel and you've got all sorts of insightful, like really deep dives on things that I wouldn't have thought of. But it doesn't strike me as provocative or
Amazon,
intentionally
people just,
controversial in
it
any
doesn't
way.
matter.
it
Listen,
doesn't
it
matter.
doesn't matter. Tyler could say right now with this background, the background that could describe it in the comments, the background is of a starry galaxy. Meteors are flying by. There are colors of blue and green and pink and purple. And someone will put in the comment, that's not green. It's aquamarine. Aren't you a fucking idiot? Don't you know that that
Right.
not blue? That is called cerulean? And that's not pink. It's fucking magenta. Dumb motherfucker. Like,
Yes. Yes,
and all,
100,000%.
and it's like, what?
Right.
I'm just describing it to someone who may not be able to see the colors, and this is how I perceive the colors to be. Do I have that
No.
correct, Tyler? Just that it's
Yeah, no, you're absolutely on the money. It's people who will just take minutia and run with it for no reason, and
Well,
just yeah.
and then the next comment will be a reply to that, like, this is how the libtards don't understand color,
Well, what they'll do is there will be an incendiary comment, and I'll leave a snarky reply because I've gotten more comfortable doing that, and there will be people who will be like, um, like, oh man, I didn't know you were like this, Tyler or Orange River. It's like what? Standing up for myself, like yeah,
okay, great.
yeah. In fact, this could be a segue. I'm not sure if this was if this was a topic that y'all had in mind, but my Prodigy video is something that I did offer a lot of hot takes and opinions that didn't really sit well with a lot of people in my audience, and I was very honest and open about how I felt about that show. But one of my one commenter came onto a community post. I've announced the Discovery video that I have coming out this week, which I've been working on for months, and it's very long, and it's a very thorough script that I'm very proud of and happy with, and I think it's very insightful of like what I talk about in it. And very nuanced. And this person said, "I hope you leave out the hyperbole this time." I'm like, what do you
What?
mean? And he said, you said that Prodigy was one of the worst series you've ever seen. I come here for insightful commentary, not for rage click nonsense. Son, I didn't like the show. I was hyperbolic in my video because I've tried to make it funny and entertaining for people. I didn't know that that was a crime, but apparently it is. And in fact, humor is something I've been trying to add into my videos a lot more over the past, several months, years even. And there will be people who will enjoy it, and there will be people. My friend experienced this. My friend does videos about glitches you can do in video games. His name is Phobia Soft, and he uploaded a video about Lies of P, and there were people who were complaining about the fact that there were jokes in the video entirely. I think that in 2025 there are a lot of people who unfortunately they they want everything to be cut and dry, just bland, humorless, straight information, and they'll say either do that or do a stand-up routine, don't do both. It's like that is so black and white thinking, and I do not like that.
Now, do you see that as evidence of what people like, or just that, like you're saying, that there's people who are gonna fuck with you no matter what you do?
I mean, I guess both. I mean, I do think that there are, some people just genuinely, have certain opinions about things. We all do, but I do think that there are a lot of people who are perpetually bored
Mm.
and they go online and they decide to just start
Mm-hmm.
spewing a bunch of nonsense or picking fights because they're bored and they don't have anything
Bored or
better to
feel
do.
helpless or disempowered in their
Mhm.
lives,
Yes,
and it makes them
exactly.
feel big and
Yeah.
strong.
They
And
And
get some kind of
they
endorphin
take it
charge
out
out of it.
Mm-hmm.
on other people,
Yeah.
Mhm.
have you, like, on the flip side of that, have you gotten critical feedback or like something short of praise that has, you know, sparked a conversation or been interesting or provocative to you, like, from your audience?
Well, I always try to, engage people or get people to engage by saying, "What do you think?" I won't read everything, but I do read a lot of comments, and there will be people who will have their own little theories about, how this ship works or this alien species and everything. Um, I will say that because I have a degree in film, and so I went to college with the other people who I'm still friends with that have the same degree, and we kind of collaborate with each other and talk to each other about, like, lighting and cameras, like the production side of it. Um, I will say that I am glad that people enjoy the fleshed out retrospectives that I do, because they could be even longer than they are already. But they're I've gotten good ideas for videos from patrons and from the comment section. I don't do it as much anymore because I don't really have as much time to,
Yeah.
see a video idea and run with it. But early on in my channel's history, when I was doing some major entries in alien biology and stuff like that. I would let people vote on, like, Klingons or Ferengi.
Mm.
Next one they'll pick one, and all of these videos may not perform the same, which means that not everybody is showing up, but that was fun, and I would like to bring back polls in some capacity, but it has to be very very limited these days. But
Mm.
historically, that has been one good interaction.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about, like, you're doing some substantial deep dives on these topics, about the sort of like gestation of like, from concept to, I assume you're writing a pretty detailed script. I mean, you speak as though it's off the cuff, but I assume it's not. And uh and from that into like a fully edited, fleshed out video. Like, what's that? What is the what is that process like in terms of
Timeline.
timing?
Yeah. Uh, that's a good question. I actually have a video that I made a while back about my process of making a video. It has been up. It
Very
has
meta.
changed a little bit very since, but um, I will. We'll see. It depends on what kind of video it is. So for something short, like what's something that I just recently put out. Well, shorter, like Orion history.
Mm.
So that video, um, I had been brewing it for a long time in my head, of like, because there's not a lot of information that we know from canon, and then Lower Decks season 5 added a good bit that I could use and run with. So I uh, kind of go to the wiki to look to Memory Alpha to look for, like, relevant pieces of information. I'll write the script and also add in my own thoughts. I'll go to research on, like, Wikipedia and other places for real world parallels and whatnot. Um, it's like the Hirogen video, they're hunter gatherers. I talk about, that and the history of agriculture and why, the Industrial Revolution, all that stuff. So I'll write the script. I will sometimes get people to proof it, of course. And I my friend helps me film. I like highlight the script so that I know what portions are going to be face cam, and which ones are going to be, have clips over them, which is a trick that I got from Kadikarus on YouTube. But my friend will come over and help me film, and I do, like, the audio in one take. usually, and or sometimes I'll pre-record the audio beforehand and then do the face cam after. But I edit the audio, the music. I will ship it out to my editor Tim, who puts the Trek clips together with all kinds of assets that he has that I send to him on Google Drive. I'll get it back,
Nice.
review it, and
Wow.
put it out, the rough cut out for patrons and members, and then release it to the world. And then for the retrospectives, an added step is watching episodes and taking notes.
Right.
Wow.
This is a picky technical question, but for all of the when you're showing a clip of an episode, all those assets, well, two questions. One, how do you rip that out of whatever media you're getting it from?
Mhm.
And two, what are their copyright issues? Are you covered just because it's commentary?
Well, there are copyright issues, or there would be in theory, and when I upload a rough cut, that'll be a test to see like,
Mm.
unlisted, like what is a potential issue that I have. Like I showed, too many seconds of this episode or whatever at this time
Mm.
code. It's really,
Mm.
it is kind of draconian, but this is the way that YouTube has been since, the mid 2000s. But generally the rule is you're relatively safe if you show like 10 seconds or less of uninterrupted, clip from episode or movie or whatever. Gameplay is fine because every, even cut scenes, like every iteration of that is going to be unique and different. But for film and TV, it is always a risk every time. Like Discovery, I was really happy to have uploaded it last night to schedule it to go out Friday, and I saw no copyright issues with it, or the content ID showed no issues with it. But in terms of how I acquire the footage, I it's so there's only really so much detail I can go into without kind of skirting like
It's like I choose not to answer.
piracy,
Right. Yeah.
conversations.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
He does the
but
things he needs to do to get the things where they need to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Uh-huh.
what I will say is I have a gaming capture card that
Mm.
is in like an HDMI setup where I have this plugged into this monitor and this USB thing into this port on my computer and whatnot, and I have a Paramount Plus subscription, and that's the end of the sentence.
No, that makes sense. That
Do
makes
you
sense.
do you find though that
Wait.
since you've grown, that part of that it's become treacherous to be more on the radar? Like, does that affect the care that you have to take now that like there's all these eyes on your work?
Right. Well, YouTube's content ID system is automated, so it'll always be at the whims of whatever they do. But in terms of like the reach of what I have to say, I mean, I I have simultaneously been getting a little bit more unhinged and degenerate and deranged with like some of the stuff that I put in my videos, particularly pertaining to a certain Orion, a woman,
I was hoping
but
this would go there.
yeah, but and so that has made me think like, maybe there might be some people who would see this that, it could be a reason that I don't like uh never work with Paramount if I were to, would have gotten a Star Trek show otherwise or something. So see me criticizing their brand. In fact, actually, there was a sponsorship that I did with Star Trek Fleet Command, the mobile game. I do them
Mhm.
from time to time,
Sure.
and they will they'll reach out to me. And one time, very early in my channel, a few years ago, when I was starting to do sponsorships after I'd had over 10,000 subscribers. There were various, when you do sponsorships, it's usually through a marketing agency, and they will contact you. It's like this middleman thing, and they like a influencer marketing agency, and they'll give you the brief and all the rules and everything, because they're working for the brand, and they're taking who knows what kind of a cut they're taking, which is why it's always a pain to negotiate, like, a dollar amount to get for the sponsorship for me. But I would send in like the rough cut of the video so they can look at the ad and approve it. And some brands want you to send in the full video, some brands don't. you can just send the ad and they'll trust that what you're putting it in is not promoting, Nazism or whatever. And but
That's not a given today. I'm sorry.
that's not a given.
Fellas, I
but-
think I've proven myself.
But I sent in the full video, and apparently some people at CBS looked at it. It was another like canon video that I made a few years ago, and some CBS execs must have looked at it, and they came back to me and they denied me the money. They said, we can't do this because your video has been deemed too critical of the what the hell are you talking about? So that's when I
Wow.
started just sending in the ad by
Oh.
itself. Now I'm not sure that was legal for them to do that, but the amount of money that it was worth was not going to be worth it to, fight
Mhm.
them over. But it made me mad.
Question.
Well, yeah,
you said-
because your whole your channel is if you're critical here and there, sure, maybe, but you're clearly coming to it with a love for the franchise.
Of course, but they couldn't tell the difference.
Huh. When you say that you upload it to you pre-upload it for patrons and members, and
Mhm.
then you wait for anything to come back. If something does ping, like however it tells you, do you then go in and recut the video before you fully upload it
I
again?
pretty much have to, yes.
Mm.
Damn.
So
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
your patrons have it's
Yeah,
just
they pay money. They pay money to get the insider.
It's
early
sure, but
early
it's
access.
like
Early
it's a
access.
knowledgeable audience that is gonna spot things that you trust.
Oh,
Is that
well, I assumed that she was talking about like
Yes.
the content ID system.
That is
Right.
correct.
got it.
But-
Yes,
Okay,
Amazon,
sorry,
get
sorry.
on board.
Control of
No, I'm there.
It goes by control.
But
Control.
no, sometimes I'll run like I'll run a script or the rough cuts by people who I might ask like for advice about, hey, what do you think about this? And like for example, this one member of mine helped me calculate like some stuff for like a Romulan Warbirds video, like yields of nuclear this and that and the other or whatever, or like the singularity engine, and the Schwarzschild radius and all that. But typically they just consume the content. I had a script editor for a while who would go in and kind of like do fact checking for me, which I pretty much have to do myself these days. But typically if I have to change something, I mean, sometimes I'm not above leaving like a pinned comment that has a correction in it, but typically I just try to be better at saying the correct thing the first time these days, and it's mainly copyright that I have to watch out for.
Sure. I am chomping at the bit to get into some questions that we tend to ask everybody.
Mhm.
I not cutting off the conversation. I hope that this continues our conversation. We call it the Star Trek meet cute. When did you find Star Trek?
So I got into it with the 2009 movie.
Wow.
Because like I said, I'm 26, so like I when it came out I was 10 years old, so I had not had a lot of time beforehand to get into the other shows, but that was my first, and it then broadened me into all the other series up to that point.
Excellent. That movie came out on my 30th birthday, for reference.
We're not going there, Mike Jones. Every time he says I'm 26, I'm like, oh.
I have to
Bless
do
your
it
heart.
because people will ask me how come I haven't seen this or haven't seen that.
Sure.
And it's like, because I was in elementary school when that was on, or
Well,
I wasn't
listen.
born when that was on.
Okay, fine, but
Okay.
you have time. I wasn't born when TOS was on, but I went back and watched it.
I only
made
have, yeah.
sorry. We're recording this on April 8th, and I made a Rex Manning Day joke at work, which is a reference to Empire Records, which is a movie from 1995.
Hmm.
Nobody got it, but one other person. And I was like,
It hurts your
oh,
soul. Yeah,
it
you've
does.
aged out. You listen.
Yeah.
I made a joke today leaving. What did I say? Oh, I'd spotted something leaving work, and I was like, "All three of you have glasses on, and you didn't see it." She was like, "Yeah, you have glasses on too." I was like, "Mm-hmm," but it's time for a thicker pair for y'all. And they would just looked at me. I'm like, nobody, anybody, my cousin Vinny. I mean, how many fingers am I holding up? Like, what? No. Oh my God.
Oh, our cultural references. They only will
Oh.
get more dated. Um, Speaking of cultural touch points, let's talk toys. Do you own any Star Trek action figures? Have you ever? And what are they?
Oh, yes, I do. I started out actually with some like Hot Wheels Starship models, which are very, very close in
Hmm.
uh like shape and size
Yeah.
and quality to like the Eagle Moss models, which I have some of as well. I have some I had a few action figures that were mixed in like from like Justice League stuff that my mom had when she was growing up. But like, I actually have started collecting uh, action figures at antique stores that I pin up on the wall, and they'll be in the backgrounds of my videos, just to blanket the wall. And I have some I guess 12, I guess they would be like 12-inch Kelvin timeline, figures as
Mm-hmm.
well. And I have a lot of books, a lot of Star Trek books, and I have some people will have noticed in the background of my videos, I have a 3D printed, it's not a toy, but is a 3D printed statue of Tindy that uh, a fan of the channel, Beezle Buzzle, created, or yeah, he doesn't usually sculpt, but I think he sculpted this one. But he did paint. He does paint a lot of models that other people 3D sculpt, and he sent it to me as a
Very cool.
gift, and it was so cool. And it's
That's
one of a
awesome.
kind.
That's great. What is your favorite Star Trek video game, and why didn't you give Starfleet Academy a real chance?
Oh my God.
I
I'm
love the
leaving
inhale.
the Zoom call.
Wow, Mike Jones came in hot.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my favorite that I played like in childhood is Conquest, even though it's not really that great of a game, but probably the ones that, what do we say that we enjoyed the most? Like Elite Force is
Mhm.
probably the one that I would gel with the most today. But yeah, that video was a whole ordeal, and I mean we could talk about it if you want, I guess.
I think what Tyler's saying is that I feel very attacked, is what I think just happened.
Oh no.
I also,
Joking. I'm
of course.
I'm not much of a gamer, but the one Star Trek video game that I like was into back in the day was Starfleet Academy. Because it had those great, like, they got
Was
William
it cadet
Shatner,
school?
and they got, yeah, at the cadet school they got William Shatner, and they got George Takei, and they got Walter Koenig to do these scenes.
Hmm.
So it was just fun to watch. I almost played it to get to those scenes, you know what I
Sure,
mean?
yeah.
But
Tyler
when
said that
when
wasn't enough.
in your video you guys gave up so quickly, and I was like, no, don't give up.
Well, there's a misconception that I think a lot of people have about that video, about how long it actually took to make.
Oh, I bet it
Like
took forever.
it took fucking forever, dude. Like it was because we had 60 games to get through, and
Yeah.
Oh.
so like
Wait, 60 Star Trek games?
yeah,
This
yeah, yeah.
There are 60 Star Trek games?
There's 60 Star Trek games.
When did they
Amazing.
start making wait, hold on,
The
hold on.
In
70s.
1979, it was
So this
1973.
is like what, Atari? And like,
Well, and see,
no,
those
are
we
they
didn't have as
computer
much of a
games?
problem with.
Oh, okay. It was like computer games, like the
Well,
piece.
yeah. I mean, but it's ones that we could, play of course on either play on PC or emulate from
Okay.
console. But no, I mean, we just had a lot to get through, and those we had like multiple recording sessions over the span of several months.
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
and to
It's-
people just think that we sat down in an hour and a half and just decided with like a goldfish attention span to like
Zero common sense. Zero
I'm
common sense.
not
Okay,
attacking Mike,
okay.
but
I
I
take
just
it
wanted to
back.
add context.
I take it back. No, it's a great video. I highly recommend everybody, once you're finished us, go watch it because yeah, it's a lot of fun. Have you ever been to a Star Trek convention? What's your best convention story?
I have not been to a convention. I almost have been to conventions that have come like near where I live. I'm not a big crowds guy. So
Me
I've
either.
never that's never really been something that I've been interested in. What I will say, this is this is gonna be clipped out from on YouTube, but um, if Noel Wells were at a signing event,
Mhm.
then I would think about going to get an autograph. But they say on these conventions say on their websites, hey, don't just come for one person, come for like the event.
Tyler said, "No, I'm coming for one
I'm
person and one person only."
but
Yeah, because people
and
cancel.
That's
this
true.
is true.
That's why
They
they
for
say
sure
that.
cancel.
Right.
This is true, and I understand that she probably doesn't go to a lot of events. She'll go to some, but like my friend who is a big like Beckett Mariner fan, if we did a cosplay, that we could go do that. That would
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
be what I did if I did go to a convention.
Very cool. Well, I hope that you do one day and we get to bump into you. We're just getting into conventions ourselves. I mean, other than like, going to them years ago as kids, like we've been to a couple as a group.
Mhm.
Yeah. Is there a series that speaks to you more than the others, and why do you think it is?
Good question. Probably my favorite is DS9, and the reason that is because I just think that it's a. I mean, I like TNG as well, but DS9 just seemed like a good deconstruction of the universe without being too like deconstructy and still like showing like no, this is the Federation is still like a good place to live, but fighting to maintain our values and everything, just showing what people do when they're taken to the brink and showing outside perspectives. I insert stuff like that in my videos all the time, like Quark's speech in the Siege of AR 558 or whatever it is, where he's telling Nog about like, let me tell you something about humans, nephew. When you take away their creature comforts, they're just as bloodthirsty as the. So like, I think that DS9 is a very good showcase of like a flawed utopia, and it just makes it more plausible to me.
Mhm. It doesn't. It doesn't just happen. You have to fight for it. It
Absolutely.
gets
Easy to
back
be a
to
saint in
what we said
paradise.
before.
Easy to be a
Easy-
saint in paradise.
Exactly.
The Maquis stuff, like showing the Federation is a very imperfect organization, is like I think that the alternative would be not a good move, and people point to like the Culture series, which I haven't read any of, but I've seen videos about it as like another example of a good like utopian kind of society in science fiction, and that's all good and well, but the Federation, you can understand why there are people who fight for it, and showing what that is like is really interesting. I probably my favorite episode is the two-parter of Homefront and Paradise Lost, where they almost have a coup and there's martial law, and I'm like, yeah, that stuff is bad, but like it's happening in this setting, and it's like it's really interesting. It's really it's more plausible to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could have dinner with three characters, not the actors, but the characters,
Mhm.
who else would be joining Tindy at the table?
Yeah.
Way to go, Mike
That is the
Jones.
correct way to
Correct
phrase
way
that.
to ask you that question.
I'm guessing not Rutherford.
Not this time.
Or is it just you, Tendy, in the shuttle?
That's the after party.
Right.
Peanut hamper's coming.
Well, my other two favorite characters, I guess, would be who I would fill the slots. Jadzia Dax is my other one of my other favorite characters. I just think she's awesome. And who else? So that's one. Who else would I invite? I mean, honestly, if Tindy's there, might as well just let Mariner be there because she would make it lively. Yeah,
That sounds like a very feisty meal.
yeah.
Those personalities.
Yeah.
I love it. If you were alive in the 24th century, what would your life be like? Would you join Starfleet? Would you be on Earth?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I very explicitly would want to stay as far away from space and Starfleet as possible because it sounds like a nightmare.
Fair.
McCoy is right. I mean,
yes, yeah, but hashtag McCoy was right. But in terms of what I would be doing, I guess it depends on what kinds of like occupations exist in the 24th century. This is a video topic that I have been wanting to make, but there's not really as much there for me to make it like a substantive video yet. But I mean, obviously, there's plenty of artistry and creativity. So I would be doing something that would involve like cameras and writing, I guess.
right. Hollow
if,
novels.
yeah,
Or...
hollow novels or something
Ooh.
like that.
Awesome. Speaking of, what's your go-to holodeck program?
You might want to say what's your second go-to holodeck program.
What's your second go-to
Honestly,
holodeck program?
we're always suspicious of people who don't go there off the bat.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Little
Isn't
wholesome.
Vulcan's sex slave or something the
Yeah.
number one?
Yeah. So, and I guess the way that I would answer that question is like, well, because I can't remember a lot of the ones from the show because they're usually in like the Old West and stuff, and it's like, okay, that's all good and well, but like, the way I would answer that question is like, what would I be doing in VR? And that's probably the way I would be exploring space is like in at a distance like that. So just
sure.
some
that
planet
makes
or
total
something.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the safe way to explore space.
Yes.
Okay, rapid fire. Crusher or Pulaski?
Crusher. Should I elaborate?
Oh yeah. No, you can
Yeah.
elaborate on any of these if you haven't.
We say
Absolutely.
rapid fire.
we say
doesn't
rapid
mean
fire.
it.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not really
That-
rapid.
those are lies.
The misnomer.
I think that Pulaski was an interesting character to bring in, because of her feelings towards Data, and that provided like some good kind of like conflict to for the writing for that season. But Crusher just gels with the rest of the crew better on like a vibes level, and so she just she's Crusher.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you going to be doing Klingon Tai Chi with Worf or doing leotard yoga with Beverly and Deanna?
I'm not a big yoga person, so I guess it's time to fight.
Said not limber, but I'm strong.
Are you drinking tea, Earl Grey, hot, or coffee, black, or Ractigino?
Tea, Earl Grey, hot.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not a big coffee person either. I've just I'm not a morning person, so I just suffer through the the early afternoon, and am I most productive at night? And I do drink soda, which is worse for you, but that is my go-to drink.
That's delicious.
Of
Right,
course,
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Have a Coke. If you had a replicator sitting next to you right now, what would you order other than a Coke?
Other than Coke. Let's see. I would probably like something like a filet mignon. Let's see how they do it with their replicated molecules.
Yeah.
Now,
Who's
how
your?
would you?
Oh,
Hold
sorry.
on, Mike
Nope.
Jones.
Yep. You
Follow up
go.
question. What is the temp on that fillet?
Ooh, I usually do stuff medium.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Who's your
And are
Star
you a
Trek
medium?
bartender? Guinan or Quark?
Oh, that's a good one. Guinan's very wise. Quark, has his little has his moments, but in terms of somebody that you can kind of sit down and talk to, what Guinan has a lot of. I mean, they both have life advice, but Guinan seems like she would be better suited to talking to a human, perhaps.
Nice.
We had someone say we want Guinan as our bartender, but in Quark's bar.
Yeah. Screw that synthahol stuff.
Right. Are you on Team Tasha Yar or Team Armis?
Tasha Yar, what are you talking about? She was taken way too soon.
Not soon enough.
We have a whole episode about this.
This is a major
it
point
is
of
the-
contention on this
It
podcast.
is.
Really?
Lenita
Literally
stands
only
strong
point
on
of
the side of
contention.
Armis.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to disagree on that. I think that she was by far had the potential to be one of the most interesting characters on that show, and got robbed super early of that. But Denise Crosby was kind of like, man, it doesn't seem like this is going anywhere though. But
Yeah.
at least Worf stayed on and they developed him. So.
Right. He stopped growling as much. Favorite alien species?
Orions, come on.
Oh,
Why even
Now,
ask?
I do want to give a nuanced answer to that. Yeah, like that. Okay, so that's kind of like the meme answer, but I really do think that they have been like fleshed out very well as of late, and I'm really happy with that. And so they are, definitely one of my favorite species. But because Jadzia is one of my favorite characters, I've always said the Trill. They just have always been a very interesting species. I also like the Caitians, because I'm a cat person.
Which one? Oh, okay. I was like, which one are the Caitians? Okay, thank you.
Now, like the Star Trek 5 three-breasted Caitians, or the we just watched that movie.
I was
I
like,
think
he got
that
his
was
3 tits?
supposed to be a Dralaxian.
Oh, really?
Oh wait, what is she? She's a what?
A Dralaxian. I think I read that on Memory Alpha or something.
But still cat-like.
Yes.
But not. Yeah, I mean, she wasn't Maress.
No.
If she was, oh, poor Maress. Like her
Maress is an indignity, end in indignity. Thrown into a pool, and that's the last we see her. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, cats hate water. Final question: Who's your
Not all
captain?
cats.
Captain, Kirk. Yeah, I think that Kirk is. I mean, Cisco's awesome as well. Kirk is the captain who knows when to bend the rules.
Interesting.
And I even include like, because I think that the Prime Directive. I mean, I made a video about the Prime Directive. I'm not going to say it's like hot garbage or anything, because I do think there is a understandable reason why it exists, but I think that the way that it's applied is very often like kind of screwed up in the franchise. So for instance, when in Into Darkness, even though it's a different timeline, it's still a good example. I think the opening scene when he saves those people, I'm like, yeah, I mean, that is just a humanitarian thing to do, and so he knows when to bend the rules.
Follow-up question: Which actor?
I mean, probably Shatner from the movies. I think because the TOS movies are like my favorite iteration of Star Trek. Like in terms of the show, like DS9, TNG, Lower Decks, but like the TOS movies, they just as cinema, they are spectacular. Not all of them, but when they are, the highs are really high, and that just feels like and there crises that the Federation is enduring during those times as well, and just the ship models are gorgeous. The writing in Wrath of Khan and in Undiscovered Country. Top tier Shakespearean, love it. And Voyage Home is my favorite, actually.
Nice. Watching these movies recently, it's
Yeah,
so
we're
it's
in the
such a
midst of a rewatch of these, so they're
yeah,
a little bit. We just got through 5, so they're a little bit
yeah.
fresh for us.
We're living in this. It's less of an ensemble than like the modern shows, but that really gives Shatner's Kirk a chance to be a true leader. Like his instincts are dead on. Nobody questions him. Like there's no. He might talk with. Well, nobody questions him. Bones questions everything he does. But that's
Of
the
course.
purpose of McCoy.
Bones.
Like aside from the trio of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, because they kind of together make a whole person, if you ask me. But there's not like a conference table room, that we get so used to in the later
And
treks where
yeah, and next gen
everybody,
where everybody's around the table. Like,
yeah,
this
it's
is
like,
my
okay,
opinion.
ideas, like, like
No.
Kirk is like, we're doing this,
Yeah,
boom. And that's awesome. It's a fascinating character.
absolutely. Yeah. The Star Trek movies are criticized frequently for being kind of like maybe like less intelligent, like more actiony, which is true of the newer that's usually levied at the newer movies. But I just think it's a different flavor of Trek.
Mhm. Well, um, I know we're coming up on time, but circling back to our canon conversation, um, I find personally that my head canon is more valuable to me than actual canon,
Hmm.
because I think each fan can decide kind of for themselves what they consider canon, what they consider real. I just read a post where someone said that the real universes are the Berman, like the Roddenberry Berman universe, and then a different universe for Kelvin, and then a different universe from Discovery on. Like there's 3 universes, and I was like, that's kind of interesting. I can see how someone could think that. Like, do you have what is your head canon, or do you stick to canon?
Right. Well, so I feel a responsibility because my channel is about cataloging lore and stuff like that to follow the definition the official definition because I understand that Star Trek is an evolving thing, and I think that's part of the point. And I think it's interesting to look at the different like intricacies of what how the timeline weaves together and everything. And so when somebody leaves a comment, typically on my channel, where they say that I don't consider this show to be canon, or that takes place in a different universe, I have to kind of approach it as like a non-factual thing that I leave a correction to.
Mm,
But I know that people are going to do it.
mhm.
So for me, I do like the idea, the theory that Star Trek Five is like a fever dream. And in my video, like these are the voyages. I talked about how there's ways that can be kind of just removed and just put off to the side. Um, but
That theory makes the row, row, row your boat thing like make total sense. Otherwise,
absolutely, yeah,
life
yeah,
is but a dream.
yeah. But I like treating the Prime Universe as a continuous thing from start to finish,
Mm.
because even though there are contradictions in it, and I think that you know the Strange New World writers kind of like introduced a little bit of a complication into that. Um, I mean, I don't know, like that the creatives behind Star Trek are continuing to establish canonical events in this history, and are there some changes along the way, perhaps, but I think that's what makes the universe richer is knowing that all of these people, all these characters, all these ships, all these wars, all these events, all these episodes, take place, are supposed to take place in a cohesive timeline. But people can compartmentalize it however they want.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's great.
Mike Jones,
Yeah.
it's my requisite time to throw things into whack. When literally just now, when you said, Tyler, like that everything is for you prime timeline,
Mm-hmm.
it popped. I don't know why it popped into my head. New Testament. Listen, and number one, I am not a. This ain't my bag, but I'm married to someone who is. So it like I don't know. I guess it's like in my back brain how there are like Luke, Mark, John, Paul, whatever, like those books, and they're all telling the same story
Mhm.
of but it's from their perspective of the history. So in a essence, are these series the perspective of that current historian, right? Like, so Mark's idea of what that is this, but then Paul said this, but it's all the same. Star Trek is the Jesus, and and Discovery is the Book of Mark, and TOS is the
Going
book.
biblical on us.
I know. I don't know. It just literally, like, I'm telling you, it shot into my head. Like, the minute you said that, I treat it all as the same timeline. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I have to respect the canon. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, but these are different perspectives on
Yeah.
Star Trek is the thing, and all
Mm-hmm.
of the shows are the different perspectives on what. If that makes any sense, I don't
Yeah,
know.
no,
It
I,
makes
I do
even more
think that
sense.
is that is a good way to put it, because it kind of goes back to what I said earlier about the fact that we are seeing these series through different lenses. So TOS
Yeah,
was campy and did everything that happened on screen necessarily have to be taken literally? I don't think so. It was a campy sci-fi series, and it's very good, but it was a campy '60s television show. The '90s shows are a little bit more serious. Lower Decks is a wacky animated comedy, but it is broadly these events, the broad strokes are still happening in a continuous timeline, but it is viewing it through a different lens. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. I think taking a step back, this is true for a lot of our pop culture, whether it be these science fiction properties like Star Trek or comic characters, superhero characters. I think that if you look at the way I'm a theater person, so I can't speak so much about the religious aspect, but like the ancient Greeks, the playwrights approached the same myths from different angles.
Mhm.
that's what I'm
This
saying.
playwright's version of
Hmm.
Hercules is a different character than this playwright's version of Hercules, but they're both Hercules.
Mhm.
And I feel
Exactly,
like
Mike
if you
Jones.
if you if you don't get too caught up in the nitpick and you step back and you're, oh well,
It's
Discovery is
not.
just a different playwright's version of this mythology.
Mhm.
That's really what it is. Um,
Good job,
and
Mike Jones, translating
rejoice
it to
in
the
that.
people who are not who never looks in a Bible before.
Um, I'm just glad you didn't say that the Kelvin timeline is the Book of Mormon. Okay, so Tyler, this
As
has
we
been
lose
great.
all our Mormon listeners right
We
near the end.
oh, right.
Oh man, dude, listen, when I made a video about Battlestar Galactica, and I talked about the Mormon, mythology, in that show and everything, I got some angry Mormons, and in my comments, I'm like, I'm sorry, man, I'm gonna tell it like it is.
Yikes! Angry Mormons. That's hard to wrap my head around. Uh,
or Mormon defenders or
oh
something,
yes, right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Indignant Mormons, maybe.
Indignant
Indignant. I
Mormons.
like
Yeah, that's
indignant.
probably
Yeah,
better.
that's
Indignant,
good.
yeah. All right.
We could keep talking forever, but we've taken up so much of your time. You've been very generous. Thank you so much for joining us. This has really been a pleasure. Um,
Absolutely. Fun conversation. This is great.
Thank you. Thank you.
awesome.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
Well, they can find me at youtube.com/Orange River. I've secured the one and only username. You can, and on social media, you can follow me on all the different stuff Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky and everything. OrangeRiver.nw.
Excellent. And can they get to your Patreon through there?
Yeah, I have my Patreon as the first link on my YouTube channel.
Excellent.
And it should be linked in other places as well. I super appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, we hope that we can add you to our little corral of guests to come back and talk about another topic with us. We'll pick, pick your brain about some other topic in the future. I look forward to it. I'd like to thank my co-hosts, Damien, who looks like he has something to say.
No, I've just enjoyed this conversation, and now I'm going to be thinking about Canada all night.
He's got his lean in. He's got his. I'm waiting for my turn. One more thing.
No, that's you. That's you.
It is me.
She hears Mike Jones ending the podcast, and she says, "I have like 3 more questions."
It's not my fault. That's the way it works.
Threatened to just start the music, the like shut up music that plays at the end. Anyway, yes. Thank you, Damien. Thank you, Lenita. Thank you, listener. If you have enjoyed today's podcast, leave us a 5-star review wherever you can find us. We're on YouTube. We're on all the socials at Hailing Freak Open or at hailingfrequenciesopen.com.
And go be that 100,000th subscriber on Orange.
Yes. Let's get.
We're gonna send you the one. We're gonna send you the one that crosses you over.
Yes.
I'll be waiting.
And with that, I'll say Hailing Frequencies closed.
No goodbyes. Just good memories. Hailing frequencies closed, sir.
And we're out.
All right. If it's okay, I'm going to take a quick screenshot.
Yay.
Great. I almost always forget to do this unless Lenita reminds me, but somehow I got it on my own.
Because I was ready to be like this. Take the picture.
That's great.
That's awesome.